You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. And today on the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, known as the Going North podcast, we got another super special, awesome human for you today. My friends, that's right. She's a fellow believer, y'all, a fellow believer indeed. And she is multi-talented in the world of speaking because she's a polyglot, y'all. That's right. 4 languages under her belt. My goodness. So she's like a black belt language master, y'all, like a black belt language master with multiple books. And the powerful thing about this is that back in the Grim Reaper year of 2020, this lovely lady decided to follow her calling and start writing the book once God asked her to do. And that wonderful book is called Messages of Love and Peace. And she started writing and she didn't stop for 7 straight months, y'all, 7 straight months. And her first books were created, and the following months, courses and workshops were also developed as well to complement her books as well. So let's give it up for the super special, awesome Miss CD herself, Miss Carolina Duarte. How you doing, Carolina?
Hello, how are you? I'm very happy to be here today.
Oh yeah, that's right. Happy with all the pappies. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, I have to be careful with some of my darn analogies with you because that might mean something else that I don't know about. That you have all these languages under your belt.
I'll let you know if it means something else.
Oh, okay. Any idea what bush means in Australia? Out of curiosity.
No.
Okay. Okay. Don't worry. That was just one of my stupid questions. But yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. She's in the building, y'all. I'm telling you, she's in the building. So my goodness. As with all introductions, you know they're not allowed to be 78 days long. So mind filling in any cavities about who is the lovely Carolina herself?
No, no, I think that's it. I'm from Colombia, if you want to add that. I've been in the US for about 20 years.
Ah, there you go. That's right. All the way from Colombia, y'all. South America, y'all. That's right. That's right. And if I'm not mistaken, the age of 4 is when you moved here with your parents, right?
That was the first time that we moved at the age of 4. I was 4, and then we stayed here for 2 years, and then we went back to Colombia, and then I came back when I was a teenager.
Ah, all right. There you go. That's right. So frequent flyer miles, I'm assuming.
Yes. Which I have never done, by the way, but I should have. I never done that frequently mile thing, but I should have.
Okay. All right. There you go. So my goodness. So moving with the parents when you're 4, of course, there's like no choice in that. And then moving back when you're a teenager. What led to the move back to the US of A?
Well, my mom's family lives here, and they've been here for, I don't know many years, probably 40, 50 years. So after her last sister moved to the US, she's like, I'm moving there too. So she decided to move too. So it's little by little, my family started to come here.
Ah, all right. There you go. There you go. Sweet. So my goodness. So with all that back and forth moving, finally calling the US of A home after the wouldn't call it globe trotting in a way, but a little back and forth action probably. What's probably been one of the biggest lessons you've learned from picking up all these languages you've learned? Like, was that always a curiosity you've had? Was that something intentional? Like, what led to that?
Yeah, I actually wanted to learn French since I was probably like 7 or 8. So I started to translate religious things like Holy Father and things like that from Spanish to French. And finally, when I was 22, I went to France to learn French. And I think what I learned from all the languages is that it comes with the whole story and behind the culture, and it's not just the language, it's everything you learn from the people that speak the language. So I find that really fascinating. And the languages that are spoken in different countries, then it changes a little bit of how it's being interpreted. And even though it's the same language, the culture changes a little bit. So I find that very interesting. So I think that's one of the lessons that I learned. Even though I wanted to learn the languages, I didn't know it come with a history background on it, and the story behind them, and how many words are just in different languages, it's the same word, and sometimes it's a different meaning. So it's just very interesting, the language part of it.
Ah, yeah, that's right. So my goodness, wanting to learn the language, the French language at the age of 7 or 8, and then finally getting the opportunity to do so. Like, my goodness, that's freaking awesome. Like, so you are got some globetrotter swag under your belt then.
Yeah, I think because I learned English, which was the second language I learned after Spanish, in the country that the language is spoken. I think that makes a difference. So I went to France to learn French, and then we to Italy to learn Italian. So it's just, I think the best way to learn a language and to experience the culture behind the language is to actually go to the country and do it. And I think those has been one of my greatest experiences, just to go to a different country and learn their culture and their language and the food and everything that it goes around a culture.
Oh yeah, definitely could say that again. And definitely agree with you because a past guest, I believe, Scott Young, he actually has a book called Ultra Learning, where him and his buddy actually went to, I believe it was 6 different countries in 6 months. And to help them learn languages as fast as possible, they basically did what you did and actually immersed themselves in the culture to learn the language. And they refused to go back to their mother tongue of English just so they could really have that language deep within themselves, and even taking away that crutch, even though folks knew they were tourists and they were open to being nice to them and speaking a little English to them, but they're like, nah, we gotta really like drown ourselves. So we gotta baptize ourselves and we gotta IV ourselves to the language of the country that we're in so we can learn it.
That's the best way to do it, because a lot of people, the first thing is easier just to speak in your native language. It just makes it easier. And for me, my second language is English. So my second language will be the easiest after Spanish. So that's just, and we as humans, we tend to be lazy. So we tend to use whatever is easier for us. But when I went to those countries, I'm like, I'm here to learn. So if I go the easy way, I won't learn. So I did the same. I used to go to restaurants and bars, just sit there by myself and talking to the waiter or waitresses or whatever, just to get myself immersed in the language and the culture too. And people are actually pretty nice when you are interested in their culture and their language and you learn, especially like Italian and French. They were so fascinated that I wanted to learn their language and their culture and their food and all that. So they were so willing and open to just teach me. So it was so interesting, and it was just a very good experience. And I think that's the best way, just to just focus on speaking and hearing and listening and everything in the language you want to learn. Speed up, you will speed up the process.
Oh yeah, that's right. Definitely gotta speed up that process indeed. And it speaks to the truth of, hey, you gotta seek first to understand others before you want to be understood, or heck, even if you want to be understood a lot quicker, like, hey, make sure you understand the other person in front of you, especially if it's a different culture when they know you're a tourist.
Exactly. I think if we go to a different country, we can expect people to behave like we behave, because we have to be respectful of whatever their culture is about. Like when we went to Egypt a long time ago, we had to wear things for to cover our hair, even though they had a lot of tourists. I wanted to be respectful with them. They didn't like us showing our shoulders. It was disrespectful. So little things like that can go a long way for people in the country you're visiting.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's like you gotta stay covered, y'all. That's right. We don't want our minds going astray too far. Stay covered. And that could probably
Yeah.
less sunburn too, probably with all the covering, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Even though we were melting, but yes, less sunburn.
It's like, hey, we're gonna cook them one way or the other. How do they make them sweat and soak, or they burn and crispy?
Yeah. So that's right. Yep.
Oh my goodness! And if I'm not mistaken, Italian was the one that you picked up the quickest, right?
Yes, yes. It's so much closer to English. I mean to Spanish than it is French. So that was the fastest. I learned it faster than I expected. And I had already spoke not spoken but listened to Italian before I went to Italy. So I had a good understanding of the language. So that helped too.
That's what I'm talking about. So, as an English speaker who's not a huge fan of English, what's probably been the most difficult language for you to pick up out of the four, if not five, since I believe you're still learning another one on top of the four you already have under your belt?
Actually, Portuguese, which is the one I'm currently learning, has been the hardest. I think one of the reasons is because I'm not in Brazil or Portugal. So I think that makes a big difference to me because I'm learning from classes online and using apps and all that. So I haven't really immersed in the language, even though it should be the easiest because it's supposed to be the closest to Spanish. But that doesn't hasn't really helped at all. So, and then a few years ago, I was learning Mandarin, and that one was also very very hard and I kind of gave up on it. I haven't given up on it completely, but I put it aside for some time. So I haven't really been in a class for Chinese in a long time. So but that one was very challenging, but a fascinating language though. Very very interesting language, just very very tough to learn. And I wanted to learn to write, and everybody was telling me, you're crazy, you don't need to write. You just need to communicate. But it's so beautiful how they write, so I'm like, I want to learn all this beautiful writing and be able to write and read it. So I think I was putting myself into a bigger challenge that I needed just to speak the language.
Ah, yeah. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Trying to go for that excellence. Like, I don't want to just speak it, I want to write it too. That way it sticks around a lot longer.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. So with this love of languages, like what is the goal with all of it? Are you trying to like go for world domination or is it something else?
Yeah, world domination it is. No, I honest a lot of people ask me like, what do you do this for work? Why go through all that? For me, it's just a hobby. It just relaxes me. It just brings me joy. And my goal since I was younger was to speak five languages. That was I said I have to speak at least five languages. So for me, that was the minimum. So I'm reaching my minimum. Hopefully this year I will be able to do that. But my ideal was to speak like seven languages, eight languages. I think it's super interesting too, and it confuses your brain a lot though. But it, I just don't have a purpose. I just believe it's very interesting to speak that have that ability to communicate in different languages. Maybe I just like to talk to people.
Ah, there we go. You know what? Heck, even if an idea, if you get to that goal, probably do a podcast where you focus on, I guess, a different language every season, or maybe every so few episodes, like a different episode in a different tongue every week with a different guest who speaks that same language. Like that'll probably be the most interesting podcast ever, even though he would need a diverse following. And the English speakers
That's
especially,
true.
might be like,
That
nah,
would be
fam, you good.
very interesting, though. That would be very interesting. That's a great idea. I might do it. And I will get to practice all languages, so that will be great too.
Uh, there we go. The CLC, Carolina's Language Collection Podcast. Yeah, that's right.
Let's all speak.
Ah, yeah, that's right. So that's right, folks. If you're in danger in a different part of the world, count on Carolina. She's got you covered. She can speak the mother tongue of that country. She's got you covered like a blanket, y'all.
Like a safety blanket.
That's right. If you're screwed up and told the random folks at the embassy that you have a bomb, don't worry. She can negotiate your way out of it. All because you forgot the wrong adjective or the wrong phrase.
And it does happen. Those confusions, those they do happen. So it's funny. It's funny how much trouble you can get into if you don't know enough of the language or enough to get you in trouble. It has
Uh,
happened to me.
so, what's the biggest trouble you ever gotten to that you're allowed to share on air?
No, one time it happened to me, which is a funny story. I always tell it because I find it hilarious. When I first moved to France, I didn't know how to say duck. I didn't know how to say chicken or duck or those. So I just went to the supermarket to buy some meat for, groceries. And I saw one that looked like chicken. And I didn't know what chicken was in French. So I felt like, well, it must be, chicken. And then I went home and cooked it. And I was like, this is a weird chicken. It looks weird. And then my roommate, she's like, oh, you like turkey? I'm like, oh, this is turkey. Like, why am I making turkey this way? So I didn't know I was buying turkey, which I didn't like turkey. So it was even worse. But little things like that happen when you don't speak the language, you come across those situations. It's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
That ain't so bad. I thought you were gonna say like a guy was flirting with you and you're trying to get away by saying that you had a mango in your back somewhere or something.
No. No. No, no. No, that's a good thing though when you're in a foreign country and if someone you don't want to talk to, they start to speak to you and you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak your language." It's a great way to just cut the conversation in a mean way, but it's a way that works.
Yeah, that's right. That's right indeed. So my goodness, so with all these travels and all these languages picked up, yeah, basically, well, I'm not sure if it was Paul on his way to Damascus moment, but last year he had a message from God. It's like, hey, I want you to write these books. So my goodness, so how did that happen?
Well, that was a longer process than it looks. It started about 7 years ago, 2014, that I was going through, I don't know how to call it, but I wasn't feeling good about myself. I felt like I wasn't doing anything right, that nothing was going right. I felt empty, and that what I was doing didn't have much value, that I wasn't bringing value to the world. So I approached God for guidance, even though nothing outside, like I had a career and I was doing fine. It was just internally, I wasn't feeling good with myself. So I approached God. I went to church, and not to mass or a service or anything, just in a quiet church, and just trying to talk to him like, okay, I want to do something good. I'm just tired of, because my career is marketing and advertising. So it's like, okay, this is nice. I'm helping other business grow, but how much value do I really bring to the world by doing that? So he started to give me messages, which I thought it was just for me, guidance when I was trying to get out of this crisis or whatever. I don't know how to call it, on a dark place. And so I started to write them after a few months of listening to them and not writing anything and always forgetting them. So I'm like, I'm just gonna have to start writing then. So I started to write them on my phone. So I guess people were thinking that I was texting what I was in church, which I wasn't. I was just writing these messages so I could read them after. And I started to collect them, and I used to read them so often, especially when I was all, again thinking, what am I gonna do, and all that. So I kept them there, and I told him in one of the times I went to church, I asked him, I want to be an instrument of love and peace in this world. I want to be your instrument. Just guide me to do something. And I left it at there. I didn't really. I thought he what he was gonna do. Just what I meant to be was something for people around me. Just guide them or help them in some way. And always friends come to me asking me for advice and things like that. So I was like, okay, let me be an instrument of your love and peace in this world. And later on, moving forward to 2018, he told me, okay, you have a collection of messages, you have to publish a book called Messages of Love. And I said, okay, I'm not a writer. I just heard this wrong. I misread his message. I don't know. So I'm like, okay, I'm canceling this. I'm not, yeah, this is not me. And then he kept saying, you have to publish these messages. So I am a web designer. So I said, okay, this is what I know how to do. I'm going to design a website with the messages, and that is publishing. And it's actually better than a book. So I can keep updating them without having to reprint the book. So I thought that was enough, but that wasn't what he wanted. So he kept telling me it has to be a book. And I'm like, I'm not a writer. I never really done anything like that in the past. I have no experience publishing or anything. But he said, you have to do it. You have to do it. He's very persistent. So on January of 2020, I said, okay, I'm taking this leap of faith. And my business wasn't doing very good in 2000, like the second half of 2019. Even though I did everything that I typically do to get clients, I wasn't getting any. So I said, okay, something is happening. Maybe he's giving me a sign that I'm ignoring. So on January in 2014, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to give up everything and take this leap of faith and do what you're telling me to do. So that's what I did. And I continued with my business. I continued with my clients. I'm still with my business, but because I didn't want to live, just left them like that. And I just start to write. And I said, okay, I have all this collection of messages. I organize them by topic, and I organize them in a way that it will make sense in a book. And I created, there's so many messages, so I created three books, but each page of the book has one message, so it's not like huge text, a lot of text. But I didn't want it to be overwhelming. I just wanted to be messages that people can just read in one day in 2 seconds and just have a message for the day. So I created that way. And then throughout those years, he also gave me messages of exercises that I had to do. And and I know it sounds weird and strange, and I'm finally open to say it. It took me years to say what I'm saying. And but the messages he gave me on that were exercises were very simple, like be kind to people around you, which sounded so easy, but be kind, and you don't have to be expecting anything from them, which was the hardest part. And also you have to find your talents and gifts. And he gave me exercise every day to do something to accomplish that. So even though they were very simple, they were challenging because I had to get out of my comfort zone and out of myself to be who he wanted me to be. So all those exercises that I did became books, like workbooks. And some of them became journals, which I originally wanted them to be a journal because I wanted them to print for myself. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this on this different notebooks. So I'm just I like to things organized. So I'm going to organize them in journals. So I have them in one place and all that. But when I created the journal, I said, why not share it with the world? This might help someone else. It has helped me so much. And then when I was doing the journal, creating the journal, I said, I need to explain people what is it that they need to do. So they end up being workbooks. So at the end, there were workbooks. And during the pandemic, of course, all this happened during the pandemic, which was kind of perfect. And his timing is always perfect. So, and so there were I was super focused because people were just shutting down and everything. We weren't able to see anyone. So I was in my apartment all day writing and very focused on just doing what he told me to do. So I really had the time to create all this content. And when that was happening at the beginning of the pandemic, I said, okay, I need to do something. What can I do to help people overcome this pandemic? This is just going around the world. What can I do? So he guided me to write a book, Overcoming the Quarantine. And that became a course because I was promoting them. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to give one workshop of how to do this whole thing of the overcoming the quarantine. But then people were like, oh, this is it. We're not going to do anything else. I'm like, we can meet every week. So it became a course of an hour weekly, and I did this for 2 months, meeting with people every week, and people are super excited. And at the end, they're like, oh, that's it. So this is it. You're not gonna continue. I'm like, okay, there are a lot coming. There are a lot other things coming up. So other courses that I'll be creating. So I felt that people were in the need of support, and they just wanted to have someone guiding them. So the workbooks weren't enough. They also wanted someone to guide them. So that's how the courses were created. So that's is just a very long story of how I came up with all this content, just guided by God, and just He shaping and shaping me, and making me a better person. And just just I believe that he just wants us to be who he created us to be. We're full of wonderful talents and qualities, and we don't realize we underestimate ourselves all the time. And he has I always tell him, like, you have more faith in me that I do in you and that I do in myself. So this is just a way for me to realize how much I had to give to the world and how little I was given. And sometimes we just, as I said, we underestimate ourselves, and we don't realize how much we can give back and how much we can do for other people. So that was my story of how all this happened. And I don't know when it was. For me, it was just in a blink of an eye. I had books in my hands. I'm like, where is this coming from? So yes, that's the story.
That's right. And she's sticking to it like glue, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. Indeed. Yes, indeed. My goodness. Yep. It's kind of funny how that works. It's like sometimes we go about things through life and then we wander off so far that God will capture us in a random moment and be like, hey, I want you to do this thing. Like, hey, that's right. My little Carolina here is going to be a writer and she's going to be running away from me. But nah, I got this fishing pole right here ready for her, and she ain't going to escape. She's going to write these books, y'all. I'm telling you, she's going to write them down. She's going to make them happen indeed. She's going to write a lot of them. And besides, they'll be easier than kids to pop up too. We'll have to wait 9 months for them. It'll be perfect. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's exactly what he was saying. And I was trying to run away from it, but I'm so glad I did it. I'm super happy with and I'm much happier now than I was uh, way before. Like the difference is so big. I'm fulfilled, and I just feel so much happier with who I am and what I'm doing. So it's good to follow him.
Ah, yeah. That's right indeed. So, do you feel like you weren't truly following him until that one moment? Because I'm pretty sure you may have had the church background being from Colombia and everything like that, right?
Yes, I was raised Catholic, and I went to Catholic school in Colombia. So I was very involved. So I'm always being a believer and always being a follower. But I think there is points in our lives when we are more sensitive to listen to him and to really follow him. And maybe he finds those situations like the clue, or it is our clue to just, this is your path. Now is time for you to take it. And if we trust him, everything works out. And even though I had challenges, and I still have a lot of challenges. It's not an easy path. but it is very fulfilling, and it makes me much happier than it was before. Feel like I have a meaning, and I feel like I think the best for me, the best way to fulfill a life is just to follow what God tells you to do. And it's just so much easier than us trying to figure it out what it is. Even though we have, like, I have my doubts, and I always try to be smart and just take a shortcut, and maybe I can do it better, or maybe I misunderstood him and let's go this way, or let's go another way. But he always shows me which one is the right way.
Ah, yeah. That's right. It's like, hey, you can speak five languages, but you ain't escaping this fulfillment. That's right. You ain't escaping this purpose.
Maybe the languages have a purpose, I don't know. Maybe that was his plan as well. So because the books are in English, I mean, I write in Spanish, and they are getting translated to English. So I guess there's something behind me learning all those languages. Sometimes we don't see the whole picture until later, but we'll see.
Yeah, because you know how powerful that is. Like, you know how many income streams that is possibility. I know it's not the main reason why you wrote it, but just as a possibility, it's like the Spanish, the English, and of course the Italian and the French as well. And eventually the other languages that you plan on learning and adding to your wonderful mind as you expand it in the realms of tongues you can speak. So yeah, reach a lot more people that way. Reach a lot more people that way.
It's true. And people like to learn things in their own native language. It's just especially, I don't know, especially spiritual things. They feel better, or at least me. I feel better to learn them in Spanish than it is in English or any other language.
That's right. That's right. You could be the key that opened their door. That's right. That's right indeed. And you don't even
Hopefully.
have to hire a translator. You are the translator. You hire yourself.
I am. You know what? It's true that I wanted to. Now that I'm translating the books, I hired a translator before, but it just is very, for me, I'm very protective of my writings, because I believe they have to be really faithful to what the meaning is of the message. So sometimes the translators don't translate well, so I had to not retranslate but fix a lot of the translations because the meaning changed. So I had to. So I guess that is an advantage once I start doing it in French and Italian, which I know I eventually will do them. So I'll be able to understand better the meaning, and if the meaning is being portrayed correctly.
Yeah, that's right. You're more of a poet that you didn't even know it. That's right. In more ways than one. That's right. That's right indeed. Get to reach a lot of people. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Lots of them. That's right. It'll be like a whole mountain full of marshmallows, metaphorically speaking.
That's a funny metaphor, but yes.
Oh man, that's what I'm talking about. So, with all these wonderful languages, writing the books in Spanish and soon to be French and Italian, how did it feel holding book number one for the first time in your hand, seeing your name on the bottom of the front of the cover of the book? How did it feel?
I cried when I received it. I just couldn't believe it, but I didn't have my name on the cover because I didn't want to be I didn't want to be my name to be on it. At first they were anonymous, but it just felt like, oh my god, just it was so true. Like, it just made it real. Like, the messages were real, his message was real, my purpose is real. So when I was holding it, I was just crying like a, like a little girl. Just of It was just a cry of joy, full of joy, and just making everything real. So every time I get a book, because I get them after I finish them, I send them and then I print them, and then every time I get them, like, wow, I cannot believe this is true. When did this happen? How did this happen? How did I get here? So it's just very joyful.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about. All the joy. That's right. That's right. She even has joy on her shelf, y'all. That's right. She probably made it herself. That's
not, not the shelf. This-
oh, okay. I'm guessing it was a gift from a friend then.
I purchased it, but I didn't make it. But it
Oh,
is. I like to have that next to the books because that's what I want the books to bring: joy and true faith.
beautiful. That's what I'm talking about indeed. So is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on these podcasts?
Um, Probably my plans for the future, or what is it that I want to accomplish with all this. That's probably one of the questions that I'd like to get asked.
Yeah. That's right. She's planning to become diplomat of Maui. That's right. That's her plans.
Not really, no, no. But I did want it to be a diplomatic at some point in my life. But I think it was just a cultural interest of on other countries and all that. Not anymore.
Okay.
I'm just a
Uh,
messenger, bringing a message that hopefully
uh,
helps people become a better person. Each person become a better person.
all right, cool. That's what I'm talking about. So, do you think you'll do a rollerblading ministry where you pass out your books with the fellow roller tongue tied rollerbladers?
No, but that could be a good idea because there are different ways to get to people, and when we create a bond with someone, then it's easier to them to trust you with different things, and sometimes God and spirituality becomes a topic that is a bit sensitive to some people, and there becomes the religion differences, and I don't believe in any differences in religion. I just believe in God. I don't care what religion you follow as long as you believe in God. So I think if we create a bond in a different way, then we are able to talk more truly about God. So if it is
uh,
rollerblading and giving books away or my rollerblades, I'll do it. It will be fun
yeah,
though.
that's right. It'll be
It'll
fun
be-
on all the buns. That's right.
yeah, it will be fun.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2021 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
If I was 25 again, oh, that would be so much fun. I will tell myself not to stress about little things, that they will work out well anyway. And just to trust God more, and get closer to him sooner than later. Just follow him without a doubt.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Follow God, y'all. That's right. That's right. Get close to God. He'll get close to you, and then it'll be a nice, close, good time indeed. That's right. There will be moments of pain, but you'll be able to turn it into power. That's right. That's right,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, the hardest moments are the ones that are usually the ones that help you grow and just become a better person and become a better human being and find things that you don't know you have and do things that you don't believe you're capable of doing. So sometimes those tough times are the ones that inspire and make you move forward.
That's right. Like doing all the math problems in the world and solving all of them all at once.
I don't know about that one, but sure.
That's right. Just put some random algebra problem on the board and be like, yeah, that's right. I have
Yeah,
language
two
number
plus
6.
two, 4.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, in this case, if I'm not mistaken, what is it? 3 plus 4 equals 7, because that's how many books you got, at least in Spanish for separate books, right?
I have a total of 12, but I am relaunching them because none of them got a proper launching. So I'm doing that. So, but I have a total of 12 in Spanish, and in English, I have two so far. So my goal is to
Ah,
have them all translated this probably this year and then launch them like for real. Not like because I just published without doing the proper launching.
all right. Well, for those who made it all the way to the end and want to cop all 12 books, especially when they're translated in English around launch time, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you and keep up with what you're doing?
Well, they can go to my web. I have two websites where if they want to see the messages, it's called Messages of Love and Peace.com. And if they want to know more about the courses and all the things that are coming up this year, as far as the books in English and all that, they can go to enlightyourlife.com.
Yeah. Well, there we have it, folks. Enlightenyourlight.com. Messages of love and peace. That's right. That's right, indeed. Both of those links to both of Carolina's websites will be in the show notes. That way you can click on both, check out the stuffs. That's right. And if you're a Spanish person learning English by listening to this episode of the podcast, you get 7 out of 5 gold stars, making it all the way to the end, y'all. That's right. That's right, indeed. Because one day Carolina might have an all Spanish podcast. Heck, she might even have a bilingual, heck, maybe even a polyglot podcast, speaking to folks all over the world, different languages. That's right. That's right. It'll be a real rainbow of
Oh,
words, y'all.
well, I do have a podcast in Spanish, but they're just the messages that I read in Spanish.
Ah, there you go. So if you just want to hear that sweet voice of hers in Spanish and check it out like a library book too. That's right. If you don't understand a word she's saying, pick up a Spanish dictionary. Maybe do some Google Translate while you're at it too.
It's a good language to learn. It's the second most spoken language in the world. So
Oh
you'll
yeah.
learn a good language.
That's right. It'll be good with all the O's. That's right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, any parting words before we close up shop, Carolina?
Well, I have a giveaway for the people that sign up. There's an email list. So if they mention your show when they sign up to the email, I can give them something on their email box for free. So depending on when they sign up, they get something different. I have a giveaway. I change the giveaways every month, so they will get something cool.
Thanks a bunch for listening to this podcast episode. Hope you really enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe to this show if you haven't already, because more greatness is coming your way. And if you're so inclined, be sure to share with at least 3 other people in your network so that way more folks can catch the fire that is on the Going North podcast. Keep winning at life and advance others to advance yourself.